APB Reloaded, published originally as APB All Points Bulletin, is an open-world cops and robbers shooter MMO hybrid that is so monumentally bad that it drove its original creators bankrupt. Real-Time Worlds, Scottish studio and developer of the original Crackdown, set to producing an MMO of their own, described by one of their executives as the bastard child of everything we've been striving towards over the last 15 to 20 years. From the beginning of its development in late 2005 up until its release in 2010, APB cost Real-Time Worlds over $100 million to produce before ultimately flopping on release, a spectacular failure that has since become industry legend. But other people have already done the APB crisis analysis, and I don't intend to retread that particular water. No, I'm here to talk about why, despite the game's well-documented flaws, I'm still fucking playing it. I wandered on scene sometime in mid-2011 or so. I had seen its original release on Steam and wanted to play it, but given that it ran on a subscription model, that was out of the question for underage me. The game was in a pretty rough state, but I was a lot younger and more forgiving of bullshit pay-to-win mechanics as well as crippling server issues. The concept sunk its teeth deep into my supple flesh, and I proceeded to obsess over it day in and day out. In fact, though I took a multi-year hiatus starting in 2015 or so, I've been playing the game on and off ever since. But why, though? The game's myriad flaws are well documented. Blatant, unapologetic pay-to-win mechanics, vehicle physics tied fully to the server, resulting in input lag while driving equivalent to user ping, a total lack of developer engagement, an overpriced premium store, an ugly, if functional, UI, extremely clunky inventory and weapon management systems, and on top all that, the game's dead as shit, meaning the only people still playing today are autistic losers with the words sunk cost fallacy slowly beginning to naturally grow and crack through their pale, frog-like skin. In spite of all these things, though, I'm still here. Not only am I still here, but I'm having a good time as well, despite all these issues. Let's talk about why. And not because I expect anyone to play it as a result, but because the things that make the game work could theoretically be put into another, better game. Let's take the basic flow of the game apart first. Like every MMO, faction status is tied to character creation, so when you roll a character you make them either a criminal, a bandit unconstrained by conventional laws, or an enforcer, a vigilante pledged to defend the world from criminals, while also themselves being unconstrained by etc. etc. Thus established, the player is given the option of loading into one of two maps called the Financial District and the Waterfront District, wherein they are spawned after a frankly ungodly long load time. Once spawned in, the player can run freely around the map driving cars, blowing up cars, and generally making a nuisance of themselves. Among the few things they cannot do, however, is damage other players. Damaging other players is kept confined to missions, which can be initiated at any time by pressing the ready button to enter the matchmaking queue. After a short wait, the player is then given an objective to either break into, or an objective to defend from being broken into by players of the opposite faction. Some back-and-forth skirmishing occurs, then, assuming objectives are completed, the mission wraps up with a longer, more gamey stage of team deathmatch, control points, or rarely package hold, which plays a little bit like Oddball but with no incentive to actually carry the ball yourself. There's a number of things that make this loop palatable to me. The map design, for one thing. Each map is a fairly large cityscape composed of about 8 squillion battle arenas stitched together by roads and city blocks, resulting in a city that feels just as natural to fight in as it does to drive through. A graffiti spray paint objective might, for example, be hidden away in a back alley, accessible by 4 or 5 routes that teams need to keep track of. This allows an intelligent player to pick their routes tactically. The maps are clearly made for the third-person perspective as well. Most corridors have sheer corners, allowing players to camera peek without risking exposing themselves. Because the map is so large and the routes so sprawling, using vehicles in combat is essentially necessary. Accessing some routes within the time limit is simply unfeasible without the addition of a car. Sometimes your opponent is conveniently in the road as well, and sending an enemy's ragdoll cartwheeling into the sun like Team fucking Rocket never gets old. But clever map design alone can't save a game, there's more to it than that. The combat that takes place within those maps is, though poorly balanced, extremely satisfying. Are the weapons woefully, comically unbalanced? Oh yes. Are the premium store weapons all, without exception, game-breakingly overpowered? Also yes, so balance is clearly not what I'm talking about here. No, when I say the combat is satisfying, I don't mean the game balance. God, no, it's imbalanced as shit. No, I mean the way the combat feels. The game's sound design is incredible, and gunshots are particularly well produced. Each gun has an identifiable sound, allowing players to know what they're up against immediately, and each shot is punchy and reverberates realistically down the block depending on how many sheer surfaces the shooter is near. The time to kill is fairly low, with most weapons being in the 3 to 7 shots to kill range, which makes every individual fight that you lose feel close. If you'd only been able to squeeze off one more shot, you might have won, and this sensation tickles my addiction receptors like a clumsy masseuse. Besides how bad it feels to lose, managing to get the kill off feels fucking incredible, precisely because the fights will inevitably be extremely close. It's worth digressing for a moment to mention character mobility. This isn't Apex Legends, this isn't Titanfall. You won't be zipping around the maps at 80 miles an hour, bouncing gaily off each lamppost and flat surface you find, but APB has a remarkable amount of player movement freedom. The jump button seems to serve double duty as both a jump and a vault key. While there is no vaulting animation, the length of character jump is perfect for fluidly mounting vehicle hoods and most waist-high walls. Characters also retain a sizable amount of control when in the air, allowing players to make jumping and air dodging part of their suite of combat techniques like it's fucking Smash Bros. This movement system, compounded by the sheer quantity of map available to learn, puts the skill ceiling somewhere around the upper stratosphere. Strong movement, gratifying, visceral combat, and cleverly designed maps are, alone, more than enough to keep me coming back to a game. I fucking despise Battle Royale as a genre, but I've got 500 or so hours logged in Apex because of strong movement, good combat, and clever map design. Those three things are the winning formula for me. But somehow, APB brings more to the table. Character customization. Do you know what good character customization is? Because I thought I did until I played APB. Making this write-up, I was forced to take a moment to sit down and ask myself, has any game actually eclipsed this yet? And the answer is fuck no. APB has far and away the single best customization system I've ever seen in any game. It's simply fucking spectacular. Characters have theme songs. APB has, contained within, a whole-ass fucking MIDI piano roll and a DAW that empowers players to make 6-second musical stings that play during the death cam for downed opponents. This same DAW can be used to write full-length songs which can then be played from cars in District. Other players can hear these tunes, and they are in fact tradable. People will pay big money for good songs and themes. To aid in character customization, the game has a custom emblem design suite that allows players to create their own symbols and emblems for use on clothes, cars, graffiti points, and as tattoos. The complexity these symbols can achieve is simply astounding, and, like everything else, they are entirely tradable. Some people sit in the social hub and spend hundreds of hours doing nothing but making symbols, cars, and clothes to sell. Because the game puts no limit on the creativity one can achieve using the symbol editor, character and vehicle customization is similarly limitless. Each individual clothing item can have these custom decals applied anywhere in any quantity in any size. Cars can be made into ridiculously complex art pieces. Unlike a lot of games that pride themselves on customization suites, player customization in APB actually has a purpose, because other players will become intimately acquainted with it. Combat is small enough in scale that you will have time to actually get a look at the people you're fighting, and particularly visually interesting vehicles become a calling card of sorts. Sure, you might not be in a mission against that guy right now, but while in hot pursuit of your current target, you see that guy's car in flames with a charred corpse trapped in the driver's seat, and you have yourself a little chuckle at his misfortune. Ultimately, however, it is not any one of the aforementioned things that keeps me coming back, it's the summation of them. Everything you or anyone else does in APB is just cool. It's fucking sweet. Everything in this game seems intentionally designed to make you look and feel as cool as possible. Are the car physics a little wonky? Yeah, but it's in service of making everything you do with them look cool as shit. Look at this. Just look at it. Was it practical? Fuck no, but did it look sweet as hell? Fuck yeah it did, and so does everything else. The irritation of getting blasted so hard my ragdoll bugs through the floor is assuaged substantially by the knowledge that even though I lost, I slid up to the fight with all four tires squealing, music pumping, and shotgun shells dropping. How could I possibly stay mad at a game that is trying so hard to make me look totally fucking radical? How could I possibly quit? I know it's a bad game, and I know it's designed to wetly slurp as much money from my wallet as possible, but it's also designed to bodily grab the base of my skull and shoot straight dopamine right the fuck into it. And sometimes that's enough.